Daria Albinger, ABC News.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A 44-year-old Hiram man has been arrested for allegedly grooming a teenager to have an ongoing sexual relationship with him from 2009 to 2013. Ernest G. Miller was booked into the Cache County Jail Tuesday afternoon and later charged with 21 felonies. According to the arrest report, Logan City police officers began investigating Miller after the alleged victim reported being sexually abused for years from the time she was 12 years old into adulthood. The girl is more than 19 years younger than the suspect, who was described as a family friend. The woman described multiple times that she was groped, molested, and later raped by Miller. She said that she was originally very nervous because she had a crush on the suspect. As the incidents continued, the girl became pregnant when she was 17 years old. The alleged victim said Miller knew about this and drove her to Salt Lake City to have an abortion. Medical records were later obtained and confirmed the procedure. In addition, the woman, who is now 24 years old, told officers how Miller would take sexually explicit photographs and videos of her while she was still underage. She claimed he would do this on his cell phones that he kept locked in a safe at his business. Judge Brian Cannell ordered Miller to be held without bail and said he was also concerned that the suspect could flee the area if released. He scheduled a preliminary hearing for December 22nd, when prosecutors will present their evidence in the case. Miller sat quietly during the 10-minute hearing. He was ordered to have no contact with the alleged victim or other witnesses in the case. He could face up to life in prison if convicted. KBNU News Time is 4:07. KBNU weather for tonight: cloudy skies, a chance of rain and snow this evening, then snow likely and a chance of rain after midnight. Little or no accumulation, low in the upper 20s, and then snow likely on Thursday. Accumulation 1 to 3 inches, high temperature in the mid-30s. Chance of snow Thursday evening, a 30% chance of snow on Friday. It's been 49 this afternoon, like yesterday's high, and right now we have 46 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. Even if you're denied by your insurance company the first time you receive a quote to fix your roof, a free reevaluation can be made. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free consultation. That's roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
Is your family visiting for the holidays, or are they already here? Well, they have laundry to do using your machines, and it'll take away hours from your family time. We'll send them to Mount Logan Laundry with the large 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers that dry 30% faster. They'll find clean, comfortable environment with free Wi-Fi internet and drop-off service, and they'll be back in no time. Recommend Mount Logan Laundry. They're at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry, the cleanest spot in town.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. Health care reform advocates in Utah are pressing the U.S. Senate to approve the Build Back Better Act. They say it would improve Medicaid and CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program. The bill has already passed in the House. It would offer 12 months of continuous coverage to children who qualify for Medicaid. It also would require states to extend Medicaid postpartum coverage from 60 days to 12 months for new mothers. Jesse Mandel with Voices for Utah Children says the bill would smooth out the bumps Utah families have faced in getting their kids insured.
It will help reverse the trends that we've seen in terms of kids losing insurance over the last few years. It really will just absolutely change the trajectory for children's health insurance in our state and give kids the coverage and care they need to thrive.
According to Utah CHIP officials, families of 4 earning $53,000 a year or less are eligible for affordable health coverage through the program. Opponents of the Build Back Better Act says the almost $2 trillion price tag is too costly. Mandel points out that Build Back Better would permanently fund CHIP so it wouldn't have to be renewed in Congress every few years. It would also make it easier for Utah and other states to expand eligibility.
Disruptions in coverage impact kids' overall health outcomes. Having the 12-month continuous eligibility provision in Build Back Better would really be a dramatic change for kids here in Utah.
The report, co-authored by Joan Alker with Georgetown University Center for Children and Families, finds during the early Trump administration years, 1 in 10 children experienced a break in insurance coverage over the course of a year. KVNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Keeping you informed. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, and online at 610kvnu.com.
Hi, this is Scott Howder. At Allen Mortuaries, we're mindful of the challenges and changes families who have lost loved ones experience during the holidays. We're also aware of the love, hope, and generosity of others. You are in our thoughts and prayers this holiday season, and we're also available to provide a measure of support whenever needed. We're always here to help. It's what we've been doing for over 80 years. Sincerely wishing you happy holidays from all of us at Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
This is the Sean Hannity Show.
And when the Taliban was on the march, he could have just hit them with airstrikes, pushed them back, expedited the withdrawal while we had control of Kabul, gotten out every American, every Afghan ally, all of our military equipment. Well, we didn't know this would happen in 11 days. You should have known, because the Taliban was on the march since the month of March.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Cynthia and Ed.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, out of the blue, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. And she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn or just stay at the stop sign. She wasn't even really sure where she was at. She was very concerned. It was very unsettling for her.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it, to bring the family in on it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Wednesday, December 8th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Coming up, we'll be speaking with Cache County Executive David Zook. We'll have a chance to sort of piggyback on our time with Cache County Clerk and Auditor Jess Bradfield on Monday regarding these two audits done. I'm just excited the audits are happening again. And it's unfortunate that I'm hearing through the grapevine this it might be getting some pushback. Power structures don't like to be questioned. And it's unfortunate because if you're doing everything well, audits are your best friend because they reinforce that with the public. They say, look, we dug into this. We looked at the procedures and our practices, and everything is great. Or everything's great other than these tiny little changes maybe that are recommended by the audit. Audits are a good thing in general. So, again, hearing rumors through the grapevine that there's some pushback on the clerk conducting these audits. The state auditor is a big fan. If you've followed the work of State Auditor John Dougal, no surprise there. He firmly believes, that's why he ran for the office, that audits are one of the most effective ways for the public to keep a finger on their elected officials and government processes and the use of taxpayer dollars. So we'll have a chance to talk more about the audits we discussed with Cache County Clerk and Auditor Jess Bradfield, with County Executive David Zook, who interestingly was I hesitate to use the word target because it sort of feeds into that idea that audits are a negative thing. But he was the subject. His office, the executive, Cache County Executive, and the executive functions were one of the audits conducted, and there were some recommendations for changes. The other, of course, was an audit of the recorder's office, and specifically some recommendations on how recorders' fees are used by the county. The short version, the county uses recorder fees not to just pay for the recorder's office. They dump them back into the general fund and use them for whatever. Recommendation was made that at least some of those fees be retained, fees collected, those monies be retained by the recorder's office to beef up staff and better train so that things can be a little more accurate and efficient there in the recorder's office. Very minor recommendations. Hopefully they get taken seriously and don't become just something that people take personally. I've seen that happen a lot in Utah government, unfortunately. But from what I'm hearing, Cache County Executive, though, again, some changes to his office were recommended by the audits, is a big fan. So we'll have a chance to talk to him about that and everything else going on in the county when Cache County Executive David Zook joins us at 5 o'clock. Coming up this hour, highlights from Governor Cox's budget. He announced the budget yesterday from a podium. I don't know why. I don't know why elected officials do this sometimes. I get that it might seem like a good idea, but a lot of times it ends up just looking funny. The governor held a press conference on Antelope Island yesterday, and so a couple of things that meant. It meant that they actually held this event with just them and a few members of the press, and then later put the video and the audio out for the media, for the rest of the media, and for taxpayers to hear. But there was a reason for that, and it did kind of look a little odd as this podium sitting out there in the middle of the sagebrush in Antelope Island. But the governor said they wanted to do that for a reason, and the reason was that water, the Great Salt Lake, it's on everyone's minds right now. I don't know if you've been up Logan Canyon recently, but around the Beaver Mountain area, about, I don't know, maybe an inch. And I don't know if it's still there today. There was maybe an inch over the weekend. It's concerning. It could, in an extreme form for many years, devastate one of Utah's biggest wintertime industries, the ski industry. But year-round, it has a potential, economic consequences that really couldn't be quantified. It would be so huge when it comes to, if we are going to have to consistently have as little water as we did last year, if that's the new norm, then we're in trouble. And that's basically what the governor was trying to say, and why he hosted the event at Antelope Island with the Great Salt Lake there as a backdrop, because he said, the Great Salt Lake sort of stands as a symbol of how interconnected everything is here in Utah, from our ecosystems and environment to our economy and business culture, to our tax structure and budgeting processes that then lead to planning and policy that's intended to make everything function well. So everything from housing debates and transportation funding debates are connected. Those debates, though they seem not to be so, are connected, the governor said, to our discussions of water and resources and the environment and the projected doubling of population in so many areas in Utah over the next 40 years. So the point was that we need to plan ahead. And so that came up again and again in the governor's budget discussion or announcement yesterday. And there were some surprises. Well, I don't know. It was, for the most part, the budget was just a lot bigger than I expected it to be. But the state budget has grown, so it really wasn't out of pace with the state budget as it has been the last couple of years, multi-billion-dollar budget. It contained a lot, pretty interesting solution to at least stepping towards a housing crisis solution, but also one that could solve statewide a homelessness solution or crisis as well. That's mainly hitting more metropolitan areas, but it does exist here in Cache Valley as well. And it's not homeless like most people conceive of it in our sort of stereotypical concepts of homelessness. We're talking about families that are displaced for this reason or that reason and then can't afford to get back into anything else. There was a report recently of the high number of students at Utah Valley University living in vans because the housing wasn't available, and what was available was not at all within a college student's budget, even if they had family backing or some decent school loans to offset costs. It was just that high of prices for even a single bedroom or a studio apartment. So this is a crisis statewide, hitting some areas harder than others, the governor said yesterday, but he proposed a solution, and that's actually getting some attention. So we'll talk about all of this coming up. We also had a listener request that I decided to follow up on myself because I've read a lot about this myself in national press, New York Times, Washington Post, even some reporting from the UK and even from Africa, some of the major news organizations in South Africa. But a listener said, according to Utah state officials, Utah Department of Health experts, what are they saying we know or don't know about this new COVID-19 variant, the Omicron variant? And I thought, that's a great question. Are there any cases here? Is there research being done here already? With our population being unique compared to a lot of other states, what are the major concerns? And so I reached out. No one was available to join us on the show today, though they've promised to make time next week to do that. But they sent along some really great, concise information of what we do and don't know and what specifically is being planned for here in Utah as this new variant takes hold. The first thing to throw out before we go to the break, and then we'll get into what they sent back to me this afternoon on the other side, but just one thing to quell myths out there, or not really myths, but one of the big concerns out there, there is a mounting evidence that the Omicron variant, though it spreads more easily than the Delta variant, which spread more easily than the original COVID-19, there is mounting evidence that it produces a less severe reaction for those who are infected. But that's the only good news, the Utah Department of Health said. My words, not theirs. We'll talk about what they sent back to me after I requested this at a listener's request, what Utah health experts know and don't know and are planning for when it comes to this Omicron variant of COVID-19 spreading throughout the world. Now, we'll get to that right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
This Christmas, ignite her heart with the gift of diamond jewelry from S.A. Needham Jewelers. Choose from our beautiful selection of diamond pendants and diamond earrings from our Rhythm of Love collection. Give her diamonds that move and sparkle with every heartbeat. It is breathtaking technology and will be cherished for a lifetime. Prices starting at only $199. Guys, she'll be impressed with your fine taste as you give her the gift of diamond jewelry wrapped in our signature gift wrap. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.A. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
Okay, Cache Valley, it's time to cash in your mad money at Anderson's Seed and Garden. You've been saving all summer for this sale. Don't miss it. Mad money is redeemable now through Saturday. Use it or lose it. Spend it on Christmas decor, trees, lights, and more. Plus, they just received a huge shipment of artificial Christmas trees. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. That's Mad Money Week at Anderson's Seed and Garden. Come see what's new at Anderson's Seed and Garden, 69 West Center, Logan.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I haven't really talked a lot about the Omicron variant here in Utah here on the show, mainly because it's, it takes a long time for there to be relevant information to really discuss and information put out by either Utah Department of Health or the Bear River Health Department. And we're nowhere near that when it comes to this Omicron variant. But a listener emailed in and said, what are they saying? What are, Utah health officials saying? Not what we're reading in the New York Times or the Salt Lake Tribune or the Washington Post, but what we might read in the Salt Lake Tribune. And the listener pointed out the reason for her question, and this is unique. The listener said, I've come to understand a lot of things about Utah. Our population's younger than most states. And yet older at the same time. Another way to put that is the largest number of people in Utah are either in the younger group or the older group. We have it's kind of hollowed out in the middle as far as our population goes, and that does provide some unique wrinkles when it comes to any public health crisis, but especially this one. So a great question from a listener, and I was curious myself, so I shot an email off, and originally looking for a guest for the show today or tomorrow. That isn't going to be possible due to the fact that I was told Dr. Alicia Nolan, state epidemiologist, is the person we want to talk to, and we won't be able to make that happen until next week. So we're still planning on that, but they did send some information along, mainly links to portions of the Utah Department of Health website, health.utah.gov, with some great information. And so a couple of things to just lay it out there. Yes, the Utah Department of Health has confirmed confirmed on December 3rd the first case of COVID-19 caused by the Omicron variant. And it was discovered through a traditional means, so genetic sequencing of the virus samples from a person infected by the Utah Public Health Laboratory in Salt Lake City. And it was discovered in Utah, the first case discovered in the southwestern Utah Public Health District. And it was a person who had recently returned home after traveling to South Africa, where the Omicron variant was originally discovered. So that is basically where things started here in Utah. Travel is a concern with Omicron, just like others, the Department of Health said. But here's a basic list of what we know. And keep in mind that what we know at this point is it could change. Because one of the examples given to me, to put this in my own words, so one of the things that is quote-unquote known about the Omicron variant right now is that it supposedly has a very mild effect. In contrast with the Delta variant and original COVID-19, most people who have contracted it so far in South Africa have been having a very mild experience. But there's a big asterisk on that. Most of the testing that's been done on the effects of the Omicron variant after its discovery have been on people under the age of 25 who tend to have a higher likelihood of a mild experience even with the original virus. So that could change. Although they're confident that this research will hold up, it could change as the virus spreads and we see its effect on the older people in our population. So big asterisk on that one. What the Department of Health says is known so far is that there is at least mounting evidence that, like with Delta and original COVID-19, vaccination and booster shots are still your best protection. And there's a twist on this with the Omicron variant in that though it does reduce, they believe, again, keep in mind, this is not something that you could underline and say we absolutely know at this point. But what evidence suggests is that the Omicron variant reduces the effectiveness of the vaccines. Less so if you've had the booster, the third shot, but still reduces the effectiveness somewhat when it comes to contracting the virus. It does not seem to have, so far, a big effect on the number of people who become severely or critically ill. So it's not increasing that very much, the science we have so far says. Here's where it gets interesting. The Omicron variant, though, when it comes to those who are protected only by natural immunity, meaning those who have had the virus before and therefore have antibodies in their system, but they came about from contracting either the Delta variant or the original COVID-19 pre-mutation, Omicron doesn't seem to care about that. They don't know why, but there is mounting evidence that it is reinfecting those who have had the virus previously but not been vaccinated. So that's basically what is speculatively known so far. Because, again, the evidence is solid, but this is very early. We're only a few weeks into even knowing about this. And so it's going to take a few weeks more before there is more significant enough time has passed to be able to say confidently there are certain trends here and there. But according to the Utah Department of Health, that is where the science is at so far. Reason to believe is basically what the email said should be added to all of this. Anything you read in the New York Times even, it should be preceded with that phrase. There is reason to believe. So there's reason to believe that it has a milder effect on the human body. Fewer people who contract this will end up in a critical situation. There is reason to believe that that third shot is key when it comes to the Omicron variant because it seems to go a long way to stop you from getting it in the first place. And then reason to believe again that this mutation of COVID-19 called Omicron does not care if you have natural immunity. Those antibodies not very effective at keeping the Omicron variant at bay once it enters your system. Vaccines with the booster, that's the key, seem to be far more effective. They don't know why. And again, this is all reason to believe so far. So this could change, but that's where we're at. I appreciate a listener sending this in because it was a great question. And the Utah Department of Health, appreciate them sending what is known. If you'd like to read all of this yourself, by the way, what they sent me, most of the information they sent me were links of this information already posted at the Utah Department of Health website, which is health.utah.gov. You can also see links to it at coronavirus.utah.gov. And there was some additional information attached. I've posted that to our Facebook page in screen capture format if you'd like to look it over. But short version, not a lot is known. The early knowns, though, the earliest signs are, as I said, again, this Omicron variant spreads. That's one thing that's interesting, and Bill, you've remarked on this too. The one thing that has been kind of a constant with the mutations, with the variants, which if you think about how viruses work, this makes total sense because the mutations that get traction are the ones that are effective, right? And by effective, I mean what we don't want to have happen. So the mutations that are going to become the dominant strain are the ones that spread easier.
Yeah,
and we saw that with
take over your cells.
Sure. So, and this is not new science. This is viral science. We've known this for 100+ years. And so the Delta variant, it has a different shape. It floats in the air longer. And that's all it took for the Delta variant to become the dominant version of COVID-19 worldwide within a few months. It's both interesting and frightening. Check it out, though. I've linked to all of this on our Facebook page. I appreciate a listener asking to give me an excuse to ask. And again, we'll be speaking in person with the state epidemiologist next week on the show. She couldn't do it this week, but she'll be with us next week, and maybe we'll have some more information by then as well. All right. On the other side, highlights from Governor Cox's big budget announcement yesterday at Antelope Island. First, though, a look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:34. The news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. The leader who oversees Utah elections said today that new efforts questioning the integrity of the state's voting system are destructive and quite concerning. The comments from Republican Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson come after a panel of majority GOP lawmakers approved an audit into the election system. There are also separate efforts to get a forensic audit on the ballot, and her office has gotten a report about people knocking on doors asking residents about their votes. Former President Trump handily won the state in 2020. House Majority Leader Mike Schultz proposed the audit and said in a statement that such probes are routine. Still waiting on Utah numbers and from the Bear River Health Department, but the Navajo Nation on Tuesday reported 35 more COVID-19 cases, but no deaths for the third consecutive day. The latest numbers pushed the tribe's total cases since the pandemic began to 40,171. The known death toll remains at 1,551. Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez has again called for everyone on the vast reservation to get a booster shot and wear masks. The reservation covers 27,000 square miles and extends into parts of Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. And authorities are investigating after a 25-year-old woman was run over by a mail truck near her Idaho Falls home. The Bonneville County Sheriff's Office said first responders were called to a report of a crash involving a pedestrian outside an apartment building on Monday. They found Haley Queen unresponsive underneath a U.S. Postal Service mail truck. Emergency workers lifted the truck to free her, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. The Sheriff's Office says it's not yet clear how Queen died or why she was in the roadway, and that bad weather was a factor. EastIdahoNews.com reports the U.S. Postal Service said it's cooperating with investigators. KVNU News Time is 4:37.
How often should you change the filter on your furnace? A lot of people are surprised when they find out that most filters are only good for 60 to 90 days. Some cheaper filters won't even last that long. If you buy a good quality filter, you should still have it checked or replaced every year. Doing this will make sure your furnace runs more efficiently and keep the air that you breathe cleaner. For a free consultation, call the Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly cloudy, chance of rain and snow this evening. Snow likely and a chance of rain after midnight. Little or no accumulation, low in the upper 20s. And then snow likely on Thursday, especially early in the day, 1 to 3 inches possible, mid-30s for the high. Chance of snow Thursday evening, a slight chance of snow after midnight Thursday night, and then cloudy 30% chance of snow on Friday, high temperature in the lower 30s. There is a winter storm watch in effect from this afternoon through Thursday afternoon for the mountains of northern Utah. It's been to 49. It's 46 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by BerensonLaw.com. When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal advice. It's time for you to get the Bear, Berenson Caldwell. Visit BerensonLaw.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's get the latest on Wall Street now from Edward Jones.
This is financial advisor Clayton McMurdy from Edward Jones, bringing you the daily financial market report for Wednesday, December 8th. U.S. equity markets closed modestly higher as markets were encouraged by news from Pfizer that booster shots seem to be effective against the Omicron variant. The S&P 500 has now fully recovered from last week's decline. Today, U.S. equities closed higher. The Dow was up 35 points at 35,755. The NASDAQ was up 100 points at 15,787. And the S&P 500 was up 14 points at 4,701. And Treasury yields are currently trading at 1.52%. And in commodity markets, the price of crude oil was up 54 cents at $72.59, and the spot price of gold was up $2.20 at $1,786.90. In stocks of local interest, Apple was up $3.90 at $175.08. Autoliv up $1.43 at $101.30. Campbell's Soup was up 71 cents at $41.83. GE up 73 cents at $98.28. Home Depot was down $4.93 at $411.25. Lowe's down 17 cents at $256.74. Nucor down $1.20 at $112.81. Procter & Gamble up 68 cents at $152.43. R.R. Donnelley down 7 cents at $10.45. Thermo Fisher was up $9.44 at $638.15. Wells Fargo was down 84 cents at $49.41. Walmart down $1.40 at $137.15. And Zions was down $1.08 at $63.36. This has been today's closing financial market report for Wednesday, December 8th, brought to you by Clayton McMurdy of Edward Jones, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 1309 North Main Street. If you'd like any additional information, please call us at 435-753-0537. Visit any of our 7 branches here in Cache Valley or online at edwardjones.com.
Sometimes, when we catch a moment of wonder, it touches our hearts, especially during this, a season of light. This holiday season, explore the wonder of life at Loveland Living Planet Aquarium's Festival of the Seas. Discover a world of magic with seasonal treats, spectacular scenes, and a seaside Santa at Loveland Living Planet Aquarium. Make your reservation today at thelivingplanet.com.
As you gather your family around this special time of year, the family of caregivers at Legacy House of Logan want to extend a heartfelt thank you for allowing us to care for your loved ones. Our goal is to provide each resident the personal care they deserve. If you care for an aging loved one, stop in sometime. You may be surprised how affordable, good hospitality, health care, and personal service really is. In fact, it may be one of the best gifts you can give a parent or grandparent. Legacy House of Logan on 1400 North in Logan.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. If you'd like to know more about the Omicron variant and what researchers know so far, the Utah Department of Health has a great resource at coronavirus.utah.gov that you can download there. But also just some great reporting out there as we learn more about the variant. And this is a variant with its own variant due to the fact that there are, in some spotted forms of the virus, up to 50 new mutations. Yeah, it's concerning stuff. But so far, as I said, the earliest results of research are encouraging on some fronts, not so on the other. And it comes down to the same thing again and again. The less spreading of the virus there is, the less chance for mutation there is, and the higher the likelihood that vaccines available now will remain effective. But again, with Omicron, it does look like it is indifferent towards natural immunity, with high reinfection rates of those in South Africa where it was first discovered who had the virus but had not been vaccinated. So, yeah, it's coming our way, just like the Delta variant did. It will be the prominent, at least, maybe not dominant like Delta. But again, all this information at coronavirus.utah.gov, and appreciate the doctors of the Utah Department of Health for honoring my request. As far as they know, I'm just some random guy on the radio, but they were great to send along the information that they've received as far as Omicron goes to help answer listeners' questions about what we know so far. So, the governor yesterday hosted a budget announcement event, not a unique thing. All governors do this every year ahead of the legislative session. And the tradition here in Utah is for the governor to propose a budget and for the legislature to basically ignore it if they choose to. And it's unfortunate because Governor Herbert, Cox's predecessor, proposed some pretty decent budgets when it came to education spending and more. The legislature sometimes listened, sometimes didn't. We'll see what they decide to do with Cox's budget. This is a big budget. The state's budget overall is, multi-billion-dollar budget each year. But the governor basically laying out a plan to deal with ongoing water crisis and drought, to deal with ongoing housing issues, including homelessness in some of the more populated areas of the state, including Cache Valley, and also looking at the good economy the state's enjoying right now and how revenue collected by the state from that can be purposed to, as the governor said, plan ahead 50 years. He held this event at Antelope Island, and the reason he did that is he said the Great Salt Lake right now stands as an example of the issues facing Utah. It's threatened officially at this point by drought and also by development and by our use of water from the tributary sources of the Great Salt Lake, and population growth expected to double in the next 40 years. The governor said these challenges are going to take sacrifice and planning. He started the event, though, with a simple question. He talked yesterday, again, at the podium set up there at Antelope Island. He said, a lot of the successes we're enjoying right now are because of planning that was done well 50 years ago. And, he asked this question.
What are we doing? What are the sacrifices that we're making today? What are the important decisions that we're making today to make sure that 50 years from now, our grandchildren and those that are coming after us have the opportunity to stand at a podium like this and say, we have the best economy in the country, and we have a very high quality of life, and we have enough water to do the things that we need to do. And so as we talk about our proposal today and recognize that that's what it is a proposal, I hope people will pay attention to that thread, the decisions we're making today that will benefit future generations. And really there are three areas where I think we will do that. The first is by investing in our people. So you're going to hear a tremendous amount about investment in our people. That comes in the way we invest in education, the way we invest in upskilling our workers, the way we invest in giving back to those that are struggling in our communities. You will also see us invest in infrastructure. We know that infrastructure is the key. Again, we're benefiting from developments that were made, infrastructure investments that were made many years ago, and we have to make sure that we are making those same investments, that we have the water infrastructure we need, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. And then finally, we make a financial investment by not overspending, by not borrowing money when we don't have to. We are going to pay down debt in this budget, and we're going to prepay some obligations, or propose to prepay some obligations, so that we aren't putting the burden of our needs and wants today on future generations. That will also free up bonding capacity for future generations if there are very important projects that they need to do when we're no longer in office. And will also save them lots of money as they don't have to pay the debt on those obligations moving forward. So with that, let me begin by one of the ways that we can invest in our people today, and that is by giving some money back. I should probably start by saying that we have some significant growth in the budget this year that allows us to give money back and to do some different things. We have approximately $1.16 billion in ongoing revenue in both the general and education funds, with another $1.87 billion in growth in one-time monies from the general fund and education funds that we are able to implement in this budget. Now, I should point out that a significant chunk of this, about 40%, is mandated by law to pay for certain things like education, social services, reserve fund deposits. So 40% of the budget right off the top is earmarked for all of those different things. I will also point out that this will allow us to have the largest rainy day funds, the largest savings funds in our state's history, and we're excited about that as well as we're prepared for difficult things that may come in the future. Now, as a result of this very healthy budget, we are recommending a $160 million tax cut in the form of a refundable grocery tax credit. Now, there are a couple tax proposals that have been floating around out there. One is to just remove the sales tax on food, and the other one is to reduce the income tax. Both of those are very valid proposals. They're good proposals. There are some positives to both of them. We think there are some negatives to both of them as well, and we believe that a refundable grocery tax credit is actually the best of both worlds. We're very concerned about inflation, and specifically concerned about the way inflation impacts our middle and lower income folks in the state of Utah, especially families. This is a proposal that will benefit families with children. The bigger the family, the more the benefit. This refundable tax credit, this refundable grocery tax credit, if I just want to point out a couple scenarios, and we have a chart here that lays that out a little bit. I'll give you two different scenarios and why we think that this is a better way to go. The first one is a larger family. We have many of those in Utah. So imagine 2 parents and 6 kids, a family of 8, making $100,000 a year. Under our proposal, this family would receive a tax credit of a $400 benefit. If we had just removed the sales tax on food, they would have received a benefit of $85, and let me get this right. I was looking at the wrong numbers. I was giving the second scenario first. Let me back up and give you the first scenario. Okay. Cutting the food tax would result in a $185 benefit for this two-parent household with 6 kids, while our proposed grocery tax credit would provide a benefit of $400. Now, for a single parent with 2 children making $20,000 a year, so this is a single mom, 2 kids, really struggling, only $20,000 a year, cutting the food tax rate would provide that family an extra $85 a year, while our grocery tax credit would provide a $240 benefit. And of course, that family would not receive anything from an income tax decrease because they do not pay any income tax.
The governor said that offering the tax relief in the form of a grocery tax rebate, basically an annual thing when you file your taxes, would provide more money, as he just pointed out there, but he also said would be a far more stable, future-proof way to provide help to these families, as is the goal of the lawmakers proposing a complete end to the grocery tax itself. This didn't get a lot of attention in the governor's budget as announced yesterday. By the way, you can download this entire thing at the website of the Governor's Office of Planning and Budgeting, which is GOPB, Planning and Budgeting, gopb.utah.gov, and I've linked to that on our own Facebook page as well if you'd like to find it there. But in this discussion of the future, the governor talked a lot about the state of the economy. Things are looking pretty good, he said several times. And then he also mentioned that there are some planning ahead needs. And then he kind of surprised me, at least. Again, this didn't get a lot of play in the news stories yesterday as this announcement was made at Antelope Island of this new budget being unveiled. But he talked a little bit about a obscure funding procedure that is heavily used here in Utah, which is basically earmarking. They don't like to call it that, Utah lawmakers, of course, but it's what it is. Utah has a process of earmarking money for certain things. So, for example, the governor pointed this out. A recent education fund earmarks were included with general fund earmarks. So more than $1.2 billion in general state revenue, which included, the governor pointed out, $961 million from sales tax, will be earmarked for the education fund. That isn't a bad thing in and of itself, but the governor's budget details that these programs will be funded with earmarked revenues that don't compete against other state needs. That's great. But the potential result is that it's less efficient allocation of state dollars. The governor said such earmarks tend to become viewed as captured revenue belonging only to those benefiting from the earmarks, and rather than as general taxpayer dollars focused on highest priority any given year. So the governor also in this budget recommends that lawmakers reduce or actually repeal previous earmarks that have been set to add some budget flexibility. Expect this one to become a fight. One of the reasons earmarks are popular is that interest groups, and I'm talking interest groups that should be listened to, like education, for example, they worry that if there's too much flexibility in the budget, opportunistic lawmakers any given year, especially in an election year, might be willing to kick some cans down the road, underfund some things in order to paint a rosier picture of that year while they run for re-election. So earmarking is a way to, the theory goes, avoid that. The money is set for this in future budgets. Doing away with that, the governor is right, would add more flexibility. Adding more flexibility, though, does present a risk when it comes to that opportunistic politician thinking more that way than as a representative of people and their districts. So expect this one to become a bit of a fight. The governor says, though, another example of the need for this, quote, realignment and reset of the state budget, get rid of some of these earmarks and have more flexibility, is that he points to a particularly urgent need, transportation. And he highlighted in the budget, the governor did, fuel taxes are not keeping pace with road maintenance and construction costs. Cars are becoming more fuel efficient, a lot of different reasons for that. And that's requiring high traffic roads, those who use high traffic roads, to pay a larger share of transportation costs through these user fees. The governor said, I don't object to that, but is this the best way to fund our state long term? And the answer is no, it isn't, but it's what we're doing. The governor also pointed to a similar structure set up with water user fees that, one, can facilitate more efficient use of water, but two, if, like transportation fees that are being used right now, they become the main funding mechanism, well, you have some, what the governor called improper incentives at that point on the part of the state to, well, increase the fees collected. So the governor also tasked lawmakers with coming up with more stable funding mechanisms, which is a refrain we've heard now for 4 years. We'll see if that can gets kicked down the road yet again. You can go download the governor's entire budget in PDF form at the Governor's Office of Planning and Budgeting website, gopb.utah.gov, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you prepare for your journey. After all, retirement isn't the end of the trek, it's a new beginning. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Hey,
it's Al Lewis. We all know buttons make our lives easier. But if you have sleep apnea and can't use CPAP, did you know there's a button that can help you go from this to this? It's called Inspire. It's a small device that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. If you struggle with CPAP, great sleep awaits at InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Jessup Insurance would like to invite you to attend a friendly, no-pressure, no-cost educational Medicare 101 meeting, Wednesday, December 15th. Get to know Jessup Insurance as they guide you through Medicare, simplifying the entire process, all while enjoying a yummy dessert. Wednesday, 7 p.m., December 15th at Jessup Insurance. Call 213-3200. That's 213-3200 to reserve a seat.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
At Winco, we're working to save you money. Big savings on top quality meat, produce, seafood, and deli. Bakery fresh breads, cakes, and cookies made daily in store. Low prices on top quality national brands and thousands of our own private label. In every aisle, every department, every day.
Now open in Logan at 1341 North Main Street.
My name is John Brenchley. Last year, my father, Lynn, passed away. Our family misses him tremendously. From the first phone call we made to White Pine Funeral Services until he was laid to rest, White Pine helped us every step of the way. The staff was there to guide us through the entire process. They were kind, gracious, and their facilities are amazing. White Pine helped to make the difficult situation of losing my dad into a positive experience where we could remember him and celebrate his life.
White Pine Funeral Services, here when you need us most.
That is hour one of today's show, but stay tuned. The County Hour with Cache County Executive David Zook is next here on KVNU Logan.
Breaking news, stimulating talk.
The biggest problem we have is ignorance.
KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.